Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we have my top 5 tips for early labor. Early labor is that time of labor that's really defined as when labor starts all the way until your cervix is 6 centimeters dilated. So it's a good chunk of labor. And let's get into tip number 1. Now, tip number 1 is the one that I get a lot of pushback with when I tell my doula clients and my childbirth ed students about this tip. But it's so powerful. So open up your mind, be ready for this. And that is to deny when you first feel those contractions, or you can call it ignore. So deny and ignore our early labor contractions. Now, why would I be suggesting you to do this? You've waited for 40 weeks to feel contractions and you're looking for signs. And if you're like most of us, I remember being in that stage myself 4 times. And the thing about it is that labor, when it gets started and it's real, you won't be able to ignore it. When it really takes hold and has an intensity to it, that where your cervix is going to be making change, you won't be able to ignore it. But it is likely, especially if this is your first labor, that there will be a period of time where contractions are ignorable, where you can probably even sleep through contractions. And if you can sleep through part of your labor, please do it. Think about it. If you were on a road trip and you knew you had to go 18 hours and you actually were able to sleep through the first 2 hours of a boring road trip, wouldn't you want to do that? Save your energy and not lose all of your ability to cope in the beginning. So denial and ignoring the contractions for as long as possible is going to serve you so well for early labor. Okay, now tip number 2 goes perfectly with tip number 1, and that is to sleep and rest. So if you are in the phase where you're not really sure if it's labor, so you're going to just not really think about it, it's a great time to rest. Now, where this comes into play so importantly is if your labor starts in the evening. So if you have had a long day of work and say it's like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. and you start feeling what you think might be contractions, pretty sure might be labor contractions, I want you to jump right into bed and try to go to sleep, or maybe take a bath first to try to relax yourself and then get into bed. And even if you don't get a real restful, continuous amount of sleep, just getting any amount of sleep is going to make a huge difference in your labor. I hope that you listen to this. So many times I have told my doula clients to rest and to go right to bed, and they don't. They do other things. They pack their bags. They call their friends. I don't even know, try to go for a walk. They take their dog on a long walk. No, I really, really, really suggest that you rest. Rest and sleep is going to serve you so well. Labor is long, labor is hard, and getting in that early rest is so important. Okay, I should move on to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is don't time every contraction. You've probably downloaded either now or you will download a contraction timer app on your phone. And they're really super helpful. They make timing contractions easy, especially if your labor starts at home. When your contraction starts, you press the button to say it starts. And when it's over, you press the button to stop. And then after you've had a few contractions, it'll tell you how long each contraction is, the duration, and the frequency, how close they are together. Are they 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute? That kind of thing. So those apps are really, really helpful, but I don't love how they make you feel like you have to time them all. When you get into this sort of routine of timing every contraction, from what I've seen as a doula is that you don't start getting into a rhythm of actually dealing with the contractions. It's like it keeps you out of that flow state of dealing with the contraction and kind of gets your rational mind too invested in what's going on with labor. So this is a great tip really to share with your partners, because partners can get a little bit obsessive sometimes about timing contractions. I don't know how many times I've seen dads miss the start of a contraction and then they get disappointed because their data is all off. And I understand this because I do love data. But what I really want you to do, instead of timing all the contractions is time a few contractions every hour or so. Or if you notice that it feels like things are picking up, get your partner to time contractions again. If you're like, these are coming closer, can you just time a couple? And then after you time, 3 or 4, then you see, okay, you have a new pattern. But I would rather you really focus on your techniques, your tools, your breathing, your relaxation, all the things that are going to help your cervix open faster. Actually, if you haven't seen my top 5 tips on opening your cervix, I'm going to put a link up here. That is a great one, and it plays into this idea of allowing and relaxing and really letting your body work and not just be hyper focused on the data and timing the contractions. Okay, here we are. We're 3 out of 5 in. It's a great time to hit that like button if you found any of these tips helpful. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to subscribe to the channel. So many great videos there, and you won't miss them if you are a subscriber. Okay, let's go to the next tip. So tip number 4 is to have a go-to plan for labor. Okay, what I mean by this is have a strategy for early labor. And this is great to think about after you take a childbirth class, after you learn about how labor works and you learn about some of the coping techniques and things to do in labor. This is a great time to define your go-to plan. So what I mean by this, an example would be, when labor starts, I'm going to rest first. I'm going to deny, I'm going to rest. Then as contractions start getting stronger, I'm going to make sure that I spend time sitting on the birth ball, and I'm going to focus on my breathing. So those are 2 strategies that I know I'm going to use. That way, when labor starts and labor starts really getting to a place where you need to cope with it, you and your partner already know, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to get the birth ball. Whether you're at the hospital or at home, you're going to get a birth ball and you're going to sit on it. You're going to roll around and you're going to focus on your breath. So you have a go-to plan. You're not in that struggle thinking about like, what should I do first? Or where do I begin? Where do I start? You have like your first go-to strategy plan. And I love this. And I think that what makes it really key is that you call it your go-to plan so that you're aware of it and you know it, and that your partner is aware of it too, so that they can be ready, like as soon as you get up from resting, to say, okay, well, it's time for the go-to plan. Tip number 5 is all about making sure that your body is ready for that active labor, and that is to eat and drink. So eating and drinking is really the right way to fuel this muscle that's contracting your uterus. You want to make sure that you are putting in that energy, putting in that hydration and that power so that your uterus is going to be able to keep opening, to keep doing the work that it needs to do. And sometimes this can be a little bit tricky. We have seen hospitals that have restrictions on eating in labor, not necessarily drinking. Usually hydration is pretty easy. Sometimes there are some restrictions for food, though this is not based on research. So it would be great to talk to your care provider in advance and let them know that your plan is to eat and drink in early labor and make sure that your body is ready to go when you move into that active labor phase. Okay, 5 of my best tips for early labor. I'd love for you to check out this next video in the top 5 tips series. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your partner, with the bump group, anyone that you think might benefit from the video as well. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.